What if the secret to peace wasn't about doing more, but caring less? In a world that constantly demands your attention, your energy, and your emotions, what would happen if you simply let go? Not of ambition, but of anxiety. Not of love, but of the need to control everything. What if true strength was found not in what you cling to, but in what you release? Why do some people stay calm while others collapse under pressure? It's not luck. It's not because their lives are easier. It's because they've trained their minds to respond instead of react, to protect their peace in a world designed to provoke it. These people aren't emotionless, they're empowered. And they have something in common. A philosophy that goes back over 2,000 years. You've heard of Stoicism, but are you ready to live it? This isn't about quoting Marcus Aurelius for inspiration. It's about applying ancient wisdom to modern chaos. It's about turning challenges into training, pain into power, and everyday life into a path toward inner mastery. 1. Control what's within. Release what's without. Imagine this. It's a peaceful morning. You've brewed your favorite cup of tea, found your cozy corner, and just as you're about to take your first sip, your cat leaps onto the table, knocks the cup over, and sends that steaming perfection cascading across the floor. You freeze. The serenity shatters. In the blink of an eye, your mood shifts. Frustration bubbles up. Maybe you curse. Maybe you sigh and think, why does this always happen to me? Now pause. Right here, in this very moment, Stoicism offers you a lifeline. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Let that sink in. The spilled tea? That's a small inconvenience. The real damage? It happens in your mind. In the story you tell yourself about that inconvenience. You might say it's a sign your day is doomed, that the universe is against you, or that you just can't catch a break. But those are all interpretations, not facts. The Stoics knew that the external world is unpredictable, chaotic, and often out of our hands. People will let you down. Technology will fail. Weather will ruin your plans. Traffic will test your patience. But none of these things are within your control. And that's the point. What matters is not what happens, but how you respond. That's where your true power lies. When we try to control the uncontrollable, we only create suffering for ourselves. We get angry when someone cuts us off in traffic. We feel rejected when our message is left on read. We spiral when our plans change suddenly. But in every one of those situations, there's a gap between the event and your reaction. And inside that gap is your freedom. You see, the Stoics didn't teach us to become indifferent robots. They didn't want us to suppress our feelings or ignore injustice. No, what they taught was mastery. Mastery over our reactions. Mastery over the narratives we build in our minds. Mastery over the only domain we truly own, our inner world. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a garden. You can't control whether it rains or not, but you can choose what you plant, how you tend to it, and how you respond to the storms. Some people spend their lives blaming the rain. Stoics focus on growing stronger roots. Let's go back to the spilled tea. The Stoic response isn't denial. It's clarity. It's choosing to see the event as neutral, just a spilled drink, and moving forward. Maybe even laughing. Maybe even being grateful that it wasn't your laptop or your clothes. That shift, though small, rewires the brain. It begins the process of inner liberation. Here's another real-world example. You're on an important Zoom call. Your Wi-Fi drops. You feel the panic rise. You imagine your colleagues judging you. Your boss losing faith. Your credibility crumbling. But is that what really happened? Or is that the story you imagined? The Stoics would remind you that the dropped connection isn't the problem. It's your interpretation of it that's hurting you. This principle, controlling what's within and releasing what's without, is especially vital in today's hyper-connected, fast-paced world. With every scroll through social media, we're bombarded with events outside our control: political turmoil, celebrity drama, natural disasters, viral trends, economic shifts. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and yet none of it is truly within our hands. So how do we apply this principle in daily life? Start with awareness. Notice the next time something small derails your mood. Ask yourself, is this in my control? Am I reacting to the facts, or to the story I'm telling myself? What's the most empowered response I can choose right now? Then, breathe, and choose again. One of the core Stoic practices is called the dichotomy of control. It's the ability to divide everything in life into two categories. Things I can control: my thoughts, my actions, my values, my effort, and things I cannot control: other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, the past. When you fully embrace this dichotomy, something amazing happens. You stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable. You stop trying to win arguments that don't matter. You stop obsessing over outcomes and start focusing on your process. And paradoxically, this doesn't make you passive, it makes you more powerful. Because now your energy is directed inward. Where real change happens, you become more present, more grounded, more resilient. The Stoics weren't naive. They faced war, exile, disease, betrayal, and still chose calm over chaos. They knew that the world is wild and often unfair. But they also knew that the human mind, trained properly, can remain unshaken. Like a lighthouse in a storm, it can stand firm, illuminating the path forward, not for others, but for yourself. So the next time something in your life feels out of control, pause, reflect, and remind yourself of this truth. I may not control the waves, but I can learn to sail my ship. That's the Stoic way. 2. Embrace the present moment. You've probably heard it before: live in the moment. But what does that really mean? In our modern lives, filled with to-do lists, pop-up notifications, deadlines, and 1,000 distractions, being present sounds almost like a luxury. But to the Stoics, being present wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. It was the key to peace, clarity, and true fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers and the Emperor of Rome, once wrote, "Do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. This quote is not just poetic, it's profoundly practical. Think about how often your mind drifts. You're having dinner with a loved one, but your thoughts are racing about tomorrow's presentation. You're walking through a beautiful park, but you're mentally reliving an argument from last week. You're lying in bed, physically still, but mentally fighting battles that haven't even happened. The Stoics saw this for what it is: a waste of life. Not because thinking about the past or future is bad, but because losing yourself in them steals your most valuable asset, your current moment. Let's imagine your life as a long chain of moments, tiny, precious pearls. Each one is an opportunity, a chance to feel, to reflect, to connect, but when you're not truly present, it's as if that moment slips away before you even touch it. You lose the chance to live it fully. You trade presence for distraction, joy for anxiety, meaning for noise. Stoicism calls us back to now. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not someday. Now. But why is that so hard? Because our minds are wired to wander. Because society rewards hustle, not stillness. Because silence feels uncomfortable. But the Stoics believed that mastering your mind begins by mastering your attention. And attention lives in the present. Let's look deeper. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, he wasn't sitting in a tranquil garden with all the time in the world. He was leading a vast empire, waging wars, facing political betrayal, illness, and pressure from all directions. Yet, in the midst of that chaos, he returned again and again to one question: am I present right now, or am I distracted? For the Stoics, presence wasn't just mindfulness, it was power. Because if you're fully here, in this moment, nothing else controls you, not regrets, not fears, not desires. You become anchored, you make better decisions, you experience life more deeply. You stop existing and start living. Here's a simple truth the Stoics understood. The past is untouchable, the future is unknowable, but this moment, it's yours. Let's make this personal. Have you ever been on vacation, sitting on the beach, watching the waves roll in, and suddenly your mind brings up next week's work stress? You're not even there yet, but you're already anxious. You're not enjoying the beauty in front of you because your thoughts are hijacking your peace. That's what Stoicism helps you reclaim. Now, this isn't about ignoring the future or pretending the past doesn't matter. Planning is useful. Learning from experience is vital. But there's a big difference between using the past and future wisely and being consumed by them. The Stoics taught that the present is where your influence lives. You can't rewrite yesterday. You can't fast forward to next month. But right now, you can choose your focus. You can shape your mindset. You can align with your values. Let's bring this into everyday life. You're having a conversation with someone you care about, but halfway through, you're mentally checking your phone. Your eyes may be on them, but your mind is on your next task. In that moment, you've abandoned presence, and with it, you've lost the chance to truly connect. Stoicism says, come back. Be here, right now, fully. So how do you actually embrace the present? Here are a few Stoic-inspired practices you can use. 1. Pause and breathe. When you catch your mind racing, don't fight it, just pause. Take a deep breath. Let it anchor you back to now. 2. Focus on your senses. What do you see, hear, feel, taste? The body lives in the present. Let it guide your attention. 3. Engage fully. Whether you're washing dishes or writing a report, give it your full energy. The task may be small, but presence gives it meaning. 4. Journal. Like Marcus Aurelius, reflect at the end of the day. What moments did you miss? What moments did you savor? Learn from both. 5. Limit distractions. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create pockets of uninterrupted time. Guard your attention like it's sacred, because it is. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And soon, you'll notice something remarkable. Life becomes richer, clearer, simpler. The taste of your food, the warmth of the sun, the laugh of a friend, the silence between words, these things aren't small, they're everything. They make up the texture of a meaningful life, but only if you're present enough to notice. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, confine yourself to the present. Why? Because that's where reality is. That's where you are. That's where life is happening, not in the scroll of your phone. Not in the echoes of regret. Not in the shadows of worry. The present moment is your only true possession. Don't waste it. Don't give it away to a future that may never arrive, or a past that's already gone. Hold it gently, live it fully. And in doing so, you begin to live the Stoic way, not above emotion, but within awareness, not detached, but deeply engaged. This moment is yours. Embrace it. 3. Accept change as nature's course. Change. It's the one thing we all encounter, yet often struggle to embrace. We plan, we organize, we create routines, and then, life interrupts. A job ends, a relationship breaks, health falters, expectations crumble. The path we mapped out so carefully suddenly turns in a direction we never intended. And when that happens, our instinct is usually to resist. We fight it, deny it, cling to what once was. But the Stoics saw change not as an enemy, but as a constant companion, one that, if understood and accepted, becomes a profound teacher. Epictetus, the enslaved philosopher who became one of Stoicism's greatest voices, offered this enduring truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That quote isn't just about surviving hardship. It's about seeing change for what it is, a natural, inevitable part of existence, like the turning of seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, the ebb and flow of the ocean. Change is life's rhythm. And when we resist it, we suffer, but when we accept it, we grow. Think about the seasons for a moment. Does winter apologize for pushing away the warmth of summer? Does spring ask for permission before blooming into new life? Of course not. Nature flows. Nature transforms. It doesn't mourn what's gone. It honors it by moving forward. Yet as humans, we often resist that flow. We build attachments to jobs, people, plans, and identities. When those things shift or disappear, we panic, we mourn, we try to return to what was. But Stoicism teaches us to align ourselves with nature's course, to move with change. Not against it, because change, whether invited or unexpected, is where growth begins. Let's bring this closer to home. Maybe you've been laid off from a job you once loved. The future feels uncertain. You question your worth. But here's a Stoic question worth asking. Is this the end, or the beginning of something else? Maybe it's the end of comfort, but the beginning of creativity. Maybe it's the collapse of routine, but the birth of purpose. Maybe, just maybe, it's the moment life stops moving according to your plan, so that you can finally discover a better one. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that everything is in flux. Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are and to make new things like them. In other words, change isn't a glitch in the system, it is the system. When you start to see it that way, you begin to loosen your grip. You stop demanding permanence in an impermanent world, and in doing so, you become more resilient. Imagine this. A river bends unexpectedly. A tree doesn't resist, it leans with the flow, roots itself deeper, and adapts. That's what the Stoic mindset trains you to do. You're not trying to control the river. You're learning how to stay upright as it shifts. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't feel sadness, disappointment, or loss. The Stoics weren't emotionless statues, they were deeply human. What they encouraged was awareness, to feel fully, but not be ruled by what you feel. To acknowledge the pain of change without becoming paralyzed by it. There's a powerful freedom in that. Because the truth is, life will never pause long enough for you to cling to one version of yourself. You will evolve, your priorities will shift, your body will age, relationships will transform, careers will rise and fall. And all of that is okay. In fact, it's necessary. As the Stoics saw it, the only thing unnatural is our refusal to accept the natural. So how do you begin to welcome change, especially when it's painful? Start with reflection. Ask yourself, is this change truly harmful, or just uncomfortable? Am I resisting reality, or adjusting to it? What might this situation be teaching me? Then, remind yourself of this. You've survived change before. You've adapted, you've grown, you've made it through heartbreak, loss, uncertainty, and fear. You've redefined yourself more times than you realize. And you will again. Every change, no matter how painful, carries within it the seeds of transformation. The Stoics believed that adversity was an opportunity to practice virtue, to be courageous, wise, temperate, and just in the face of the unknown. That's not easy, but it is powerful. Here's a small but meaningful shift. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this change revealing about me? What is it sharpening? What is it removing? What is it awakening? Life, after all, is not meant to stay still. It's meant to move, to break, to rebuild. You are not meant to remain the same version of yourself forever. You are meant to adapt, to shed the old, to welcome the new, even when it comes wrapped in fear or loss. And that, perhaps, is the Stoic heart of this principle. To trust that life doesn't fall apart, it shifts into a new pattern. To trust that you were built not to break, but to bend and come back stronger. So something changes, something ends, something surprises you, something hurts. You can take a breath, return to reason, and say, "This, too, is part of nature's course. I will move with it, not fight it. I will not be the storm. I will be the sailor." That's not resignation. That's resilience. That's the path of a Stoic. 4. Detach from external validation. In a world driven by attention, validation has become the new currency. We chase it, sometimes without even realizing it. A compliment makes our day. A criticism ruins it. A post that gets likes boosts our mood, while one that goes unnoticed fills us with self-doubt. We've built a digital society where value is measured in views, reactions, and fleeting approval. But what happens when no one applauds? What happens when the spotlight fades? This is where Stoicism offers a revolutionary idea, one that feels almost rebellious today. Your worth does not depend on what others think. It comes from who you are, how you live, and what you stand for, even when no one's watching. Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and rose to become one of the most profound thinkers in history, once said, "Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." Many of our so-called problems aren't about reality, they're about perception. About what we believe others might think. About how we imagine we're being seen. And in that imagined world, we hand over our power. The Stoics believed that to live a meaningful life, we must withdraw our sense of worth from the unpredictable judgments of others and root it instead in something much deeper, our own virtue. Let's pause here and ask a difficult question. How much of what you do each day is fueled by the desire to be seen, accepted, or praised? Would you still dress that way if no one noticed? Would you still post that message if no one reacted? Would you still strive for success if no one applauded? It's uncomfortable to think about, isn't it? But Stoicism teaches that freedom begins the moment we stop seeking permission to be ourselves. Here's the truth. When you attach your self-worth to external validation, you become a prisoner of opinion. One day you're admired, so you feel confident. The next day, you're criticized, so you collapse inward. You become a puppet, pulled by the strings of other people's moods, tastes, and judgments. But when your self-worth is internal, anchored in your character, your intentions, your actions, you become unshakable. Let's imagine two people. One lives to be liked. They adjust their behavior based on what others expect. They say yes to things they resent. They post only the best moments, hide their flaws, and shrink from confrontation. They gain approval, but lose themselves. The other lives by principle. They're kind, but not needy, confident, but not arrogant. They speak the truth, even when it's unpopular. They're not rude, they're real. They don't need applause, because they know who they are. That's the Stoic way. This doesn't mean we reject compliments or isolate ourselves. It means we don't depend on them. We welcome praise, but we don't chase it. We hear criticism, but we don't absorb it blindly. We stay centered in our own judgment. Here's an example. Say you post something meaningful online, something you poured your heart into. It gets ignored. No likes, no shares, silence. Your mind starts whispering, "Was it bad? Am I irrelevant?" Now enter the Stoic response. The value of what you created doesn't change based on how others react. You know the effort you put in. You know your intention. That's enough. Because your worth isn't on the screen. It's in you. Let's look at this from another angle. Imagine someone insults you. They question your abilities, your appearance, your decisions. The old version of you might rush to defend yourself. But the Stoic you pauses and asks, "Is this true?" If it is, you thank them for the feedback and grow from it. If it's not, you let it go, because it says more about them than about you. Either way, you don't let it define you. This is emotional independence, and it's rare. In fact, many people go their entire lives without tasting it. They build their identity around careers, popularity, relationships, or public image, and when those things shift, as they always do, they crumble. But the Stoics remind us, you are not your reputation. You are your choices. You are not the labels others give you. You are your actions, your values, your resilience. That is your identity, not what people say about you, but how you choose to live when no one is looking. Detaching from external validation doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you stable. It allows you to live with authenticity, to pursue what matters to you, to take risks, to speak honestly, to disappoint others when necessary in order to remain true to yourself. That's not selfish, it's integrity. So how can you start detaching? Here are a few Stoic strategies. Practice self-reflection. Instead of asking, "Did they like it?" ask, "Was I proud of how I showed up?" Limit comparison. Remember, what others present is often a highlight reel. Compare only to your own growth. Focus on virtue. Ask yourself daily, did I act with honesty, courage, and wisdom today? Silence the noise. Create moments of solitude. Learn to enjoy your own company. Be okay with quiet. And when doubt creeps in, as it will, remind yourself of this Stoic truth. You were not born to please the world. You were born to live with purpose. The someone approves or disapproves of you. Smile politely, but don't let it enter your soul. Nod if it's kind. Reflect if it's useful. Ignore if it's noise. Because your worth is not a vote. It's a fact, and no number of likes, followers, or opinions can increase or decrease it. You are enough. With or without applause. 5. Recognize life's natural cycles. There's a quiet rhythm to life, one that pulses through everything around us, birth and death, rise and fall, gain and loss. And yet, for many of us, this rhythm feels more like a disruption than a flow. We resist the lows. We cling to the highs. We dread the endings and hold on too tightly to what we love, fearing the moment it might slip away. But to the Stoics, this cycle wasn't something to fear, it was something to understand, respect, and even embrace. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once reminded himself, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." It's a powerful truth, because while loss often feels like an ending, in nature, it's just a part of the cycle. A leaf falls, not in death, but in preparation for spring. The sun sets, not in defeat, but to make way for rest and renewal. Winter comes, not to punish, but to prepare the soil for rebirth. The Stoics saw the same cycle in human life. Relationships may fade, possessions may be lost, health may decline, but within each loss, if we look closely, there is also the possibility of renewal, of rediscovering what really matters, of finding clarity, of beginning again. The key is to see life not as a straight path, but as a series of seasons. Each season has its place. Each teaches us something different. Spring is for beginnings, for planting seeds, for hope, for trying something new. Summer is for growth, for momentum, for warmth, for building. Autumn is for harvesting, for reflection, for letting go, for gratitude. Winter is for stillness, for rest, for grief, for inner depth. We often love the springs and summers of life, the new jobs, the blossoming romances, the celebrations, but we resist the autumns and winters, the goodbyes, the breakups, the quiet moments of loneliness. We forget that these seasons aren't punishments. They are necessary. Without them, growth would be impossible. Imagine a world where trees never shed their leaves, where rivers never shifted, where clouds never rolled through the sky. It would be unnatural, stagnant, unmoving. Life, in its very essence, is movement, and every movement brings something new. So why do we suffer so much when we lose something? Because we believe it's not supposed to happen. We think love should last forever, that friendships shouldn't change, that we should always feel motivated, always be happy, always have control. But the Stoics gently remind us, impermanence is not a flaw in life, it is the nature of life. Let's consider a common experience, the end of a relationship. It hurts. It feels like a death. We replay memories, search for reasons, wonder what we did wrong. But after the storm settles, something unexpected can happen. We begin to rebuild. We rediscover parts of ourselves we lost. We grow stronger, wiser, more self-aware. That is the cycle at work. Destruction is followed by creation. The collapse makes space for something new. Or think about losing a job. At first, it might feel like the world is crumbling. The structure, the security, the identity, all gone. But perhaps that loss leads you to your true path. Perhaps it forces you to build something from scratch, something more meaningful. The setback becomes the soil for something greater. Of course, This mindset doesn't erase the pain. Stoicism never asked us to feel nothing. On the contrary, it asks us to feel everything, but with clarity and perspective. It tells us, yes, grieve, yes, mourn, but do not forget, this, too, is part of the cycle, and no cycle lasts forever. If we can learn to recognize these natural phases of life, we stop reacting with panic or bitterness. Instead, we begin to see patterns. We begin to trust the process. We begin to let go, not with despair, but with dignity. So how can we live more in tune with life cycles? Enjoy the beauty in your life, but do not cling to it. Be grateful for what you have, but understand that everything is temporary. Non-attachment doesn't mean apathy, it means loving without fear. When something comes to a close, don't rush to replace it. Sit with it, learn from it, allow the ending to be a teacher, not just a wound. Keep a record of your emotional seasons. What are you gaining? What are you shedding? This helps you see the natural flow over time. Every loss carries wisdom. Ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? What am I now free to do that I wasn't before? Spend time observing the world around you. Watch the trees, the sky, the animals. You'll see, everything changes. Everything returns. And in that observation, something shifts inside you. You begin to realize, life isn't about holding on. It's about showing up, fully, honestly, courageously, no matter what season you're in. You find yourself mourning something that's ended. Whisper a quiet Stoic truth to your heart. This is not the end. This is part of the turning. And turning is how the world moves forward. Just as every sunset makes way for a sunrise, every goodbye, every loss, every ending clears the way for a new chapter. You may not see it yet, but one day, you'll look back and understand. The falling leaves were never the end. They were the beginning of a new spring. 6. Seek growth in adversity. No one invites adversity willingly. Yet, it arrives unannounced, through broken plans, personal loss, failure, betrayal, illness, or even a seemingly endless series of minor frustrations. It's in those moments, when the ground beneath us shakes, that we feel most tested, most vulnerable, most human. But according to the Stoics, those very trials, the moments we wish would pass quickly, are not just unavoidable. They are essential. Seneca, one of the most prominent voices of Stoic wisdom, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." And what a profound truth that is. Just as a muscle must be strained, torn, and rebuilt to become stronger, so too must the human spirit undergo pressure to build resilience, wisdom, and character. Without adversity, we remain soft, untested, uncertain, unprepared for life's deeper challenges. Adversity, unpleasant as it may be, is the proving ground of our inner strength. Think about it. When have you grown the most in your life? Was it during moments of ease and comfort, or during moments of pain, pressure, and uncertainty? We often look back on our hardest chapters and, strangely, feel grateful, Because it was there, when we had no choice but to adapt, no option but to dig deep, that we discovered something we didn't know we had. A layer of strength, a flicker of clarity, a greater sense of purpose. That is what the Stoics call the gift of hardship. Let's be clear, Stoicism does not romanticize suffering. It doesn't tell us to seek pain for the sake of pain. Instead, it teaches us how to interpret pain differently, how to view difficulty not as a punishment, but as a form of instruction. Adversity reveals what's inside us. A calm sea never made a skilled sailor. If you only face fair weather, you never learn how to navigate storms. And storms will come. So the Stoics ask, will you be broken by the waves? Or will you rise with them? Here's a simple but powerful exercise. The next time something difficult happens, instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is this here to teach me? That shift in mindset, from victimhood to growth, changes everything. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you've just failed at something important. A business idea collapses. A relationship ends. You're left staring at the aftermath, wondering what went wrong. The non-Stoic reaction is to wallow in regret, blame others, or retreat. The Stoic reaction is to investigate the lesson, to learn, to adjust, and to return stronger. Every challenge carries within it a hidden seed of transformation. But you only discover it if you're willing to face the discomfort head-on. Stoicism also reminds us that the obstacle is not the enemy, it's the way forward. This is one of the most famous Stoic principles. The obstacle is the way. It means that the very thing in your path, the thing you fear, hate, or resist, is not blocking you. It is the path. You grow not by avoiding obstacles, but by walking through them. You become stronger not in spite of adversity, but because of it. This way of thinking transforms even the most frustrating situations. You're stuck in traffic? An opportunity to practice patience. Someone insults you? A chance to strengthen your composure. Life doesn't go your way? A reminder to practice surrender and flexibility. Of course, none of this is easy. Stoicism never promised ease, it promised strength. And that strength is built one challenge at a time. It helps to view adversity as a form of mental weight training. Just as you wouldn't expect to build physical strength without lifting heavy things, you shouldn't expect emotional resilience without facing emotional strain. The Stoics believed that comfort breeds complacency, while hardship develops depth. A mind that has faced difficulty with courage becomes calm, unshaken, and wise, not because it no longer feels pain, but because it understands pain. There's also something beautiful about what adversity strips away. When you're tested, the inessential falls away. You stop caring about trivial things. You remember what truly matters. You reconnect with your values. You see who stands beside you. You begin to see yourself more clearly. Seneca himself endured exile, betrayal, and threats to his life. Yet he used those moments not to collapse, but to sharpen his philosophy. He found peace not by escaping difficulty, but by facing it with clarity and principle. And you can do the same. The life throws you into the fire. Don't curse it. Instead, ask, what virtue can I practice here? What strength can I develop right now? How can I emerge from this wiser than I was before? That's the Stoic way, turning trials into training. To seek growth in adversity is not to minimize your pain. It is to refuse to waste it. It is to say, this hurts, but I will not let it harden me. I will let it refine me. Let others run from the discomfort. Let them hide in distraction. You, as a student of Stoicism, will face it directly. You will use it. You will grow. It's not the easy moments that define you. It's how you respond when everything seems to fall apart. And if you meet those moments with courage, patience, and resilience, you will not only survive, you will rise. 7. Cultivate inner riches. In today's world, it's easy to believe that wealth equals worth. We're surrounded by shiny symbols of success, luxury cars, designer brands, sprawling homes, influencer lifestyles. Social media has turned comparison into a daily habit, and consumer culture constantly whispers, if you just had a little more, then you'd finally be happy. But the Stoics saw right through this illusion. They knew that true wealth has nothing to do with what you own, and everything to do with what you need. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome yet also one of the wisest, put it perfectly. It's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. Think about that. Poverty isn't the absence of material things. It's the constant hunger for more. A man with little but who is content is far richer than a man with much who is never satisfied. The Stoics weren't against enjoying life's pleasures. They didn't live in caves or reject beauty. What they rejected was dependency. The idea that your happiness is tied to external things that can be taken away. Because here's the hard truth. Material wealth is fragile. A stock market crash, a job loss, a global crisis. These things can strip away possessions in an instant. But what no one can ever take from you is your inner wealth, your peace of mind, your character, your self-respect, your gratitude, your ability to find joy in simple moments. That's what it means to cultivate inner riches. It means shifting your focus from what you have to who you are. It means asking not, how much can I accumulate, but how deeply can I live? Let's consider a moment in your own life. Recall a time when you felt genuinely at peace. Maybe it was sitting alone in nature, feeling the wind on your face, or laughing uncontrollably with someone you love, or sipping a warm drink on a quiet morning. Chances are, that moment wasn't about luxury. It was about presence, gratitude, simplicity. That's wealth. Now think about the flip side. A time when you had what you wanted, money, attention, success, but still felt restless. Still felt like something was missing. That emptiness? That's the absence of inner riches. The Stoics teach us that the more we chase pleasure, status, or possessions to feel complete, the more we drift from real contentment. Because contentment isn't found in adding more. It's found in needing less. This isn't about becoming a minimalist monk. It's about recognizing the difference between comfort and fulfillment, between riches and wealth of the soul. Seneca warned of becoming a slave to luxury. He said that once you grow attached to lavish living, it owns you. Suddenly, you fear losing what you have. You need more to feel the same joy. And slowly, quietly, you become less free. Inner riches do the opposite. They free you. Because when your happiness comes from within, when it's rooted in values like honesty, kindness, resilience, and gratitude, then you carry your wealth with you wherever you go. Whether in a palace or a small apartment, whether surrounded by crowds or alone, you remain whole. Let's translate this into practice. How do you cultivate inner riches? Take time each day to reflect on what you already have. Not just possessions, but people, health, lessons, beauty. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. Rather than asking how you're seen, ask who you are becoming. Are you living with integrity? Are you kind when no one is watching? That is true prestige. Enjoy what you have, but don't be owned by it. If you can't live without something, it owns you. Learn to appreciate, not depend. Read, reflect, think, seek understanding over opinion. The wealth of wisdom will serve you far longer than any trend or object. The sun on your skin, the silence of early morning, a deep breath, a real conversation. The world is full of riches, but only for those who notice them. There's also a powerful Stoic exercise that Seneca practiced, voluntary discomfort. Once in a while, he would eat simply, dress plainly, or sleep on the floor, not out of self-punishment, but to remind himself that he could live with less and still be fine. He wanted to train his mind to detach from neediness, to prove that real strength comes not from abundance, but from the ability to remain calm when that abundance disappears. That mindset makes you unshakable. Because when you know that you can be content without external luxury, you stop fearing loss. You stop chasing endlessly. You begin to enjoy more deeply, love more freely, and live more fully. You also become a source of peace for others. People who chase constantly often create stress, for themselves and for those around them. But people who cultivate inner wealth radiate calm. They listen more, judge less, offer more presence than performance. They are grounded, and in their presence, others begin to ground themselves too. That's not just Stoicism. That's leadership. That's power. That's freedom. So, as you move through a world obsessed with more money, more fame, more noise, choose a different path. Choose enough. Choose presence. Choose to measure your success not by what's in your bank account, but by what's in your heart. When all the lights go off and all the noise fades, the question that will remain is not, how much did you have? It's, how fully did you live? 8. Understand and accept fate. There are moments in life when no amount of planning, hoping, or striving can change the outcome. A sudden illness, a loved one leaving, an unexpected failure, or a door that just won't open, despite your best effort. In those moments, you meet fate. The Stoics did not define fate as something mystical or passive. It was not an excuse for laziness or surrender. For them, fate was the natural unfolding of the universe, an intricate web of cause and effect, of events beyond our full understanding and outside our complete control. And in the face of that truth, they offered this liberating advice from Epictetus. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do. It sounds paradoxical at first. Why would you wish for what you don't want? But Epictetus wasn't telling us to become numb or accept suffering blindly. He was pointing us toward freedom, the freedom that comes when we stop resisting reality and start aligning with it. Because suffering doesn't only come from what happens. It comes from our insistence that what happens shouldn't be happening. Think about it. The breakup hurts, but it hurts more because we think, this shouldn't be ending. The rejection stings, but it stings deeper when we think, I was supposed to get that opportunity. The failure crushes us, not because of the result itself, but because we tell ourselves, this wasn't how it was meant to go. It's the mental friction between what is and what we expected that creates much of our suffering. The Stoics call us to a higher perspective, to step back from our limited desires, and instead trust that life's unfolding, however painful or mysterious, is part of a larger order. This is the essence of amor fati, the love of one's fate. Not just tolerating what happens, but embracing it, welcoming it, trusting that every event, pleasant or not, is a thread in the tapestry of your life, leading you to exactly where you need to be. But accepting fate doesn't mean becoming passive. On the contrary, the Stoics were deeply engaged in the world. They worked, led, fought, and served, but they drew a sharp line between what they could control, their actions, thoughts, and choices, and what they could not, the outcome. This clarity allowed them to act with purpose, but live with peace. Let's bring this into a modern frame. You're preparing for a big presentation. You put in the effort. You rehearse. You show up on time. But the projector fails. Your voice cracks. And the meeting doesn't go as planned. Now what? A non-Stoic reaction might be panic, self-blame, or despair. But the Stoic response? I did what I could. The rest was never mine to control. This shift is powerful. It allows you to stay grounded. No matter what happens, you no longer ride the roller coaster of outcomes. You stay steady in your efforts and calm in your acceptance. Now, accepting fate doesn't mean everything that happens is good in itself. There will be tragedies, injustices, and losses that pierce the soul. What the Stoics suggest is that even in those dark moments, we can choose our response. We can find meaning. We can grow in dignity. We can endure. And sometimes, we can look back and see that what we once resisted was actually a redirection. That the closed door was protection. That the fall was a turning point. Many of us live trapped in the belief that life owes us something, a smooth path, a perfect plan, a happy ending. But Stoicism teaches that life owes us nothing. It simply offers us what is. And in that offering, our task is not to demand more, but to meet what comes with courage, adaptability, and humility. Let's revisit Epictetus' wisdom. Wish that things happen as they do. It's a challenge to the ego, a call to let go of control and trust the unfolding. It means turning our energy inward, focusing not on rearranging the world, but on shaping our minds to face the world as it is. So how do we begin to understand and accept fate? Separate what's in your power from what's not. Act fully on what you can influence, your effort, your values, your perspective. Let go of the rest. When things don't go your way, ask, what opportunity is hidden here? What part of me is being called to grow? Think of times when life didn't follow your plan, but in hindsight, it worked out better, or shaped you in important ways. That's fate at work. This Stoic practice invites you to anticipate possible difficulties, not to worry, but to mentally prepare. If the worst happens, you've already trained for it. Nature has its own rhythm. Storms clear the air, fires renew forests. So too, life's disruptions may serve purposes you don't yet understand. To understand and accept fate is to live without resistance, without the exhausting effort of constantly rewriting reality. It's not about giving up, but about rising up, from within, in the face of what you cannot change. And when you do that, when you stop fighting the river and start flowing with it, you'll find that peace isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of alignment. So the next time life throws something unexpected your way, pause, breathe, and say, "This wasn't my plan, but it's part of my path. I will meet it with strength. I will grow through it. I will accept, not because I am weak, but because I am wise." That is Stoic power. 9. Be of service to others. Stoicism is often misunderstood as a solitary pursuit, a path of personal resilience, emotional detachment, and internal mastery, but that image is incomplete. Because at its core, true Stoicism is not just about strengthening the self, it's about serving the world. The Stoics believed that we are not isolated islands, but interconnected parts of a greater whole. We belong to a vast human community, bound together not just by shared existence, but by shared responsibility. We were never meant to walk this path alone. Seneca, the Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, said it best. We are all parts of one great body. We must be helpful to one another. The well-being of each is bound up in the well-being of all. In other words, to serve others is not an act of charity, it is an expression of our nature. Just as the heart pumps for the body, the hand reaches out instinctively, and the lungs breathe for the whole. We too are designed to contribute, support, uplift, and engage in acts that benefit more than just ourselves. And when we forget that, when we fall into the trap of hyper-individualism, self-interest, or emotional isolation, we don't just neglect others. We diminish our own potential. Because real fulfillment does not come from self-absorption. It comes from connection, from purpose, from offering something valuable to the world, even when no one is watching. We've all felt the difference. You buy something new, it feels good, but only for a moment. You help someone sincerely, it lingers in your heart. Why? Because service touches something deeper. It affirms that your life matters not just for what you achieve, but for how you impact others. Let's pause and reflect. Have you ever helped a friend through grief or confusion, and left feeling more grounded yourself? Have you ever offered a listening ear, a kind word, a moment of presence, and watched someone's shoulders relax, their face soften, their spirit lift? That is the quiet power of service. And that's why Stoicism encourages it, not just as a moral duty, but as a path to inner peace. Here's the paradox. The more you focus on helping others, the more whole you become. Service strips away ego. It silences the voice that says, "Me first," and awakens the voice that says, "How can I help?" That voice is the foundation of character. It doesn't matter what your job title is, how much money you have, or how many followers you've gained. What matters is, are you contributing to something beyond yourself? Are you making someone's burden lighter? Are you using your strength to lift, not dominate? Stoicism teaches us that virtue is the highest good. And what is more virtuous than service? When you serve with integrity, you practice humility, generosity, patience, and compassion, all at once. And this service doesn't need to be grand. It could be helping your neighbor carry groceries, checking in on a friend who's gone silent, sharing your knowledge freely, volunteering your time, raising your children with presence, treating a stranger with dignity. In fact, the most impactful acts of service are often the smallest ones, the ones done quietly, without praise or attention. And in those moments, you align yourself with nature, just as the Stoics taught, because nature doesn't act for applause. The sun doesn't rise for likes. The rain doesn't fall for recognition. It simply gives. You are part of that same nature. Of course, Stoicism also reminds us to serve wisely, to help with boundaries, to give without enabling, to offer without expecting, because service, when done with clarity, is not self-sacrifice, it's self-expansion. It strengthens you, it purifies you, it adds meaning to your path. But what if you feel like you have nothing to give? Start small. Everyone has something. A story, a skill, a smile, a moment of time, a willingness to listen. You don't need to be perfect to serve. You just need to be present. And here's the beautiful truth. The act of service becomes the teacher. It humbles you. It reveals what matters. It builds empathy. It opens your heart to the fact that everyone, regardless of status or struggle, is carrying an invisible load. Seneca wrote, "No one can live happily who regards himself alone." He meant that fulfillment, joy, and even Stoic tranquility, these are not found by turning inward forever, but by allowing our strength to ripple outward. So how can you begin living this Stoic principle? How can I be of service today? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes, being fully present is the greatest gift. Serve not for praise, but from principle. Help because it aligns with your values, not because you expect reward. The person who annoys you, they're part of the same body. The stranger asking for help, part of your world. Let this awareness soften your judgment and open your compassion. Whatever your role, teacher, creator, leader, parent, see your actions as offerings, not obligations. Service is not becoming a martyr. It's becoming someone whose actions are driven by wisdom and kindness, not guilt or ego. In serving others, you are not diminishing yourself. You are living your philosophy. You are proving that Stoicism is not about building a fortress around your heart. It's about developing strength so that you can open your heart wisely. So as you move through your day, your week, your life, ask not only what am I building for myself? Ask, what am I building that others can stand on? How am I using my strength to heal, not harm? What kind of ancestor am I becoming? Because a Stoic life is not one of lonely greatness. It is one of shared humanity. And when you choose to serve, not out of obligation, but from principle, you are no longer just surviving. You are living a life of meaning. 10. Reflect, review, and realign. In the rush of modern life, it's easy to get swept away. One day blends into the next. Tasks pile up, messages demand replies, distractions multiply, and before you realize it, you're moving, but not necessarily in the right direction. That's why the Stoics placed immense value on daily reflection. They believed that without moments of stillness, self-review, and course correction, we drift away from our values, away from purpose, and ultimately, away from ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and devoted Stoic, wrote in his private journal, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And what better way to improve your thoughts than to pause and examine them? This practice wasn't abstract philosophy to the Stoics, it was a daily ritual. Marcus Aurelius used his meditations not as a book for the world, but as a mirror for his soul. Every night, he asked himself, "Did I live with integrity? Did I act according to reason? Where did I fall short, and how can I do better tomorrow?" That's the heart of this principle. Reflect, review, and realign. It means carving out space in your life to evaluate your behavior, not with harsh judgment, but with honest intention. It means measuring your actions not by success or approval, but by your values. Because we all drift. We all get reactive. We all slip into habits, routines, or moods that quietly pull us away from the person we want to be. The Stoics didn't expect perfection. They expected awareness. And awareness begins with reflection. Think of your mind as a compass. If left unchecked, it can easily go off course. But with regular review, you realign yourself with your true north, your principles, your virtues, your reason. Here's what that can look like in practice. At the end of the day, sit quietly and ask, what did I do well today? Where did I allow emotions or ego to override wisdom? Did I live according to my core values, or did I get distracted by external noise? How did I treat others? Was I patient, present, kind, or reactive and self-absorbed? What can I improve, not out of guilt, but out of commitment to growth? This isn't about shame. It's about alignment. Because when your thoughts, actions, and values are in harmony, peace follows. When they aren't, you feel it. The internal friction, the unease, the sense that something's off. Most people try to escape that discomfort with more distractions. The Stoic chooses to face it. Let's consider an example. You lose your temper with someone at work. You react, raise your voice, maybe say something you later regret. In the moment, it feels justified, but later, in quiet reflection, you realize, I wasn't in control, I let the moment own me. That awareness? It's not weakness, it's strength, because now you can learn, now you can prepare, now you can realign and commit to showing up better tomorrow. Without reflection, you repeat. With reflection, you evolve. And this evolution is not a dramatic overnight change. It's a steady recalibration, a daily choice to inch closer to your highest self. In a world obsessed with external achievement, this practice turns your attention inward, not to escape the world, but to engage with it more wisely. When your inner world is chaotic, even success tastes hollow. But when your mind is clear, when your thoughts are deliberate and your actions intentional, then even the simplest moments feel full of meaning. That's the power of mental clarity, and clarity requires regular mental housekeeping. So how do you integrate this into your daily life? Pick a time, morning or evening, to sit quietly and review your day. Write down your thoughts if it helps. Don't rush. This is time for you. Ask yourself, did I show wisdom in my decisions? Did I exercise temperance in my reactions? Was I just in my treatment of others? Did I act with courage in the face of difficulty? Don't judge your day based on how much you got done or how people responded. Judge it by how well you aligned with your values. You don't need to fix everything overnight. Pick one thing to improve, one pattern to change, one habit to strengthen. Growth doesn't come from self-loathing. It comes from love, love for who you are, and who you're becoming. In many ways, this practice is like cleaning your inner mirror. Life smudges it with noise, pressure, fear, and ego. But when you stop, reflect, and realign, you see yourself clearly again. And in that clarity, you find power. Because now, you're not just reacting to life. You're responding with intention. You're living by design, not by default. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. He carried the weight of an empire, faced betrayal, illness, war, and yet, every night, he returned to the page, to reflect, to examine, to adjust. If the ruler of the known world made time for reflection, what excuse do we have? You don't need hours. You don't need perfection. You just need the willingness to look inward, and the humility to course correct. Because a great life isn't built in grand moments. It's built in small decisions, made consistently. And those decisions begin with awareness. So take a moment. Pause. Review. Ask yourself not, was I perfect today? But, Did I move in the right direction? And if not, adjust. Because every sunrise is another chance to live aligned. Every night is another chance to reflect with honesty. And every reflection is a return, not to who you were yesterday, but to who you truly are. What if the peace you seek has been within you all along? What if freedom isn't found in controlling the world, but in mastering your response to it? What if real power isn't about how loudly you speak, but how deeply you live? Over the course of these 10 timeless Stoic principles, we've uncovered not just a way to survive the chaos of the modern world, but to transcend it. We began with the powerful realization that you cannot control the world, but you can always control yourself. That your peace lies not in external stability, but in internal steadiness. Like Seneca reminded us, it's not the storm that breaks us, it's our reaction to it. Then we were called to embrace the present moment, to stop dwelling on what was or fearing what might be, and instead live fully now. Because in truth, this moment is all we ever really have. From there, we learned to accept change as the natural rhythm of life, to stop resisting the seasons of loss and growth, and begin flowing with them instead. Epictetus taught us that change is not the enemy, it is the invitation. We then turned inward to break free from the trap of approval. In a world chasing likes and attention, we remembered that your worth is not on a screen, it's in your soul. We recognized that life moves in cycles. Joy comes, and joy goes, so does pain. But within every ending, there's always a quiet beginning. The Stoics ask us not to cling, but to let go with grace. We faced adversity next, not with fear, but with purpose, because hardship is life's gym for the soul. It doesn't break you, it builds you. Every difficulty is a lesson in disguise, preparing you to rise. From there, we learned the value of cultivating inner riches, not chasing possessions, but nurturing character, gratitude, and presence. The richest person is not the one who owns the most, but the one who needs the least. We then bowed to fate, not in defeat, but in wisdom, because peace comes when we stop demanding life to follow our script, and start aligning with reality as it is. We remembered that this life is not just about personal gain, but about service. Stoicism is not selfish, it's deeply communal. You are here not only to grow, but to give, to uplift, to contribute. And finally, we arrived at the most transformative practice of all, reflection. To pause, to review, to realign. Because self-awareness is the beginning of real power, and daily reflection is the map back to your true self. 10 principles, 10 anchors in the storm, 10 tools that, if practiced, will change not just how you think, but how you live. But here's the truth. Knowing these principles is not enough. You must live them. Breathe them. Fail with them. Rise with them. Practice them until they become part of your very being. And if this journey resonated with you, if even one idea sparked clarity, strength, or stillness within you, then I ask you for something simple, yet powerful. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to this channel, not for algorithmic fame, but because together, We are building a community of depth in a world drowning in noise. Every like helps spread wisdom. Every share can shift a life. Every subscription says, I choose a life of reason, reflection, and real power. So let's walk the Stoic path, not perfectly, but with intention. And may you remember, in every moment of stress, doubt, or pain, you are not helpless, you are not lost. You are the master of your mind, and the author of your response. Live as the Stoics lived, calm, clear, and unshakably free. We'll see you in the next chapter of this journey. Until then, stay present, stay grounded, and stay true.